Hey everyone, how you doing? Yeah, I'm wearing my, as Mike put it, my tribute to Wilf Paymont today.
It's awesome.
So I think we need to get a. Someone had suggested this idea, and I really like it. So we're not going to do it today, but I'm going to have to get some kind of like point system for the chat room. That when if they can name the jersey I change every day in the back, they'll win something. Like if they the first person to name it, I'm going to do it because I have this is only like.
So what you're saying
of my jerseys, so I can move them in and out. So get a good look today. You see what's there, okay? Get a good look.
Yes, I see the Carter Hart jersey. That's the new one.
Yeah, that was sent to me by a good buddy. Yes, that's a Phantoms jersey because of course Carter Hart will never wear 31 in Philadelphia.
That's right. True.
But which I think is a whole ridiculous thing. But anyway, we'll get into that later, if at all. But so check that out in the back and check out the jerseys in the back of the chat room. If you're not part of the chat room, what you do is you go to youtube.com where this is, so you can get to that from the blog. You can see the little YouTube thing. Click on it, and then on the right side you'll see a pop-up chat. And if you're not if you don't have a Gmail account, I guess you can't actually participate. But if you don't have a Gmail account, you're probably on the run. So you probably have a Gmail account or something like that you can actually.
Listen, I went through this the other day. If you have an AOL account at this point, and this includes Tim Panaccio, who up to his last year covering the Flyers had an AOL account, and the "You've Got Mail" pop on when he turned on his laptop. And I love Tim, but I laughed. If you have an AOL account, something is wrong with you.
No, it's not something wrong with me.
Something is wrong with you.
I have my original AOL account from 1997. Let's just say it's that old that it doesn't have any numbers in it. It has
like keeping your original bowling.
I have one too, but the AOL account I have that I still try to keep up, and I don't even know if it's still alive. Is a really cool name I got. Really low name early on in AOL, and I use it now as when you go to some place and they say, "Can we have your email address?"
It's a dumb
AOL account just because I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah, this thing is a dumping ground for spam. But
I have a Yahoo account. If I give you a Yahoo account, it means I don't care about you. But it also means I was an early adopter to Yahoo, and I think I have over 100,000 emails in there now. Well, I've never deleted one.
If you have a CompuServe account, then it's old. But we all know somebody who has an MSN account. So, there's nothing wrong.
I hate email though with a passion, as you guys know. I'm not an email person at all, and I get a lot of heat from that.
That's true.
The few people that want to email me, I definitely texting me is the only way to go. But yeah, I get my emails. I have hundreds of thousands of emails. In my inbox. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Absolutely absurd. So, the quick thing I wanted to say also about this little pre-show thing is, so my band is, which many of you have heard about at some point or another. Our music got put onto Amazon for this special sale they were having this weekend of
nice.
Bands. I'm like, that's kind of cool, sure. So our album shows up on Amazon, and it shows up as, Greg Lance's A Little Voodoo, and then in parentheses, explicit.
Oh no!
So you're dropping F-bombs?
Absolutely nothing explicit. I mean, I can't even think.
There has to be a word or a mention that triggered it.
I don't even curse in real life.
I know you don't. I've never heard you curse, but there has to be one word in there that they deem suggestive. Maybe it's even a slang term, and they misunderstood it.
I'm trying to figure it out. I mean, we have one song that there's a lot of
innuendo.
It's called "If I Was," and there's this one song. Somebody said to me, "I bet it's the line if I was butter on your corn cob." I'm like, that can't be it.
No, that's not it. Actually, I have a theory. I do have a theory. I bet you that a human doesn't even decide if it's explicit or not. I bet you they have a computer program that they run the digital files through.
There's no question. And it's just, but that's what's amazing to me, because I can't even think of anything. There's not even any, I mean, these are ethereal.
Yeah. If you mentioned like pickle or eggplant because of what they mean on emojis, maybe that's why.
This isn't like Sarah McLachlan's Building a Mystery, which at least has actual kind of music.
Do you have a song with a banana in it? Could that be why?
Butter on your corn cob is about as close as you get.
Corn cob. It's phallic.
I guess
it's produce.
I don't know.
Well,
anyway.
To Russ's point, I'm driving to the gym this morning, and I'm listening to. There's a song, the band Live, who were very popular in the '90s. They had a song on one of their first albums called "Damn It, Otter Creek."
They're from my area.
Yeah. It's a great album, great song, and they had, if you go to like SoundHound and you like want to see the lyrics, they usually get their lyrics not from like lyric sites. They get it from basically like some sort of voice recognition software where it just prints out the lyrics. And for this particular song, there are large passages in this song where it says incomprehensible, meaning they can't understand what the guy is saying. I mean, I have a feeling that when they scanned your song, it was something where they couldn't understand what they were saying and they thought it was something dirty.
I'm so curious, like I mean, I think it's, first of all, it's absolutely absurd, like that it's completely absurd. But I'm so curious as to what it is. You're right? Something triggered it. Something did, and I just have no idea what that could be. Like I really, literally, I don't even write things that are subtly that way at all. So it's just crazy. It's funny. It's funny. I wanted to also recommend a quick thing before we get into a podcast for those music people out there called Strong Songs. It's a Strong Songs podcast. It's by Kirk Hamilton, and it is phenomenal. And what it is he's a musician, but he's also a podcaster. I think he does some big podcast. He's like the co-guy on a big podcast. I think maybe even on NPR. But anyway, he is obviously a musician. He goes through songs. Like the last one he did was I Wish by Stevie Wonder. He did Single Ladies by Beyonce. You Can Call Me Al by Paul Simon. Africa by Toto. He goes through the songs in depth and points out all these cool little things about it that you never knew. And he'll stop the song and he'll be like, and he has a piano right in front of him. He's like, listen to this. Like, this is what the bass line is playing. Boom, boom, boom. And he'll play it back and he'll like, listen to it now.
That's cool.
And I mean, this guy gets into it. Like, really gives you like an incredible appreciation of some of like the greatest songs, and then he talks about the lyrics and how the lyrics go with things and stuff like that. It's really well-rounded podcast. So
he has an autopsy.
One more music mention, simply because I felt like you should know about it. I don't know if you saw. Have you watched the Orville at all, or this season of it?
No.
They had a Billy Joel episode where the music was in there.
Oh yeah.
And this takes place in the future. So Billy Joel survives the future, and Bruce Springsteen didn't. That's what I got out of that.
Billy Joel is my Carter Heart of musicians. I went to see Billy Joel hundreds of times.
Go ask Seth MacFarlane. He knows.
I love Billy Joel. I'm not against Billy Joel.
Yeah, you are.
Yes, you are. You hate Billy Joel.
I just don't compare him in the world with Bruce Springsteen.
If it were up to you, you would have sunk the Alexa boat that he was singing about.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite songs ever. Actually,
he would have torpedoed the Downeaster Alexa.
Yes.
I love that song. That is one of the best Billy Joel songs. And it's like,
and you wouldn't have said just the way you are. You would have been like, you need to change. Like, you would have been the opposite of Billy Joel.
I listened to the Good Night Saigon album, which I guess is Allentown, or what is that album?
No, it's not Allentown. It's
the one with Under Pressure on it.
Yeah.
Nylon Curtain.
Nylon Curtain. Yes.
That is Allentown on it.
It has it on it, but it wasn't the name of the album.
Right. But it's the song.
It is on there, yes.
That was like the hit from that album. But
that album's fantastic.
Pressure was too. That album is phenomenal. And Good Night Saigon is another unbelievable Billy Joel song. Good Night Saigon is a phenomenal Billy Joel song. So, I mean, there's a great Billy Joel stuff. I just wish he continued writing after, Y2K happened. Like, it's just like, was something in his head that was like, Y2K, we can't write anymore?
Well, no, but based on what Springsteen has written since Y2K, I think Billy Joel's ahead of the game.
Oh, okay.
I mean, Springsteen's had like 2 hits since then that are anything worthwhile.
The Rising and something, that's basically
even Radio Nowhere is borderline okay.
Yeah, we'll save this for tomorrow, because Russ and I had a game we wanted to bring up that we never got around to, so we'll bring it up in the pre-show tomorrow.
So Drew in the chat room says Rick Beto on YouTube does the same kind of thing with what makes this song great on YouTube. I'll check that out. That's cool.
Okay.
I was just really got into this. Let's get going here, and we will start. It's the 28th. Does January feel like it's been endless?
Yes.
Like, I just feel like it's got to be January's got to be over by now.
You don't want to ask me,
just like this pre-show.
You don't want to ask me. My house was involved with the federal shutdown. Do you really want to bring back January memories?
I've thought about you all the time.
Yeah, I don't want to even think about January anymore.
Yeah. Oh boy. Well, good. Oh man. Anyway, let's not go there.
For February.
Here we go.
All right. Here we go. Hello, Hockey World. It's Monday, January 28th, 2019.
I'm Michael Agello, and happy birthday to my favorite musician, Sarah McLachlan.
I'm Russ Cohen, and I'm definitely going to play her song at my funeral. It's in the codicil.
Speaking of explicit lyrics from Sarah McLachlan, right? One song, maybe. I'm Eklund. You're watching the Hockey Buzz.
No, that's not nice.
Buzz, what?
No, actually, she's had a couple.
I mean,
she has a few good songs.
I love her. I'm talking about explicit lyrics. I'm saying
no. On her second album, there is a song where she drops an S and I think an F. So
the Building of Mystery is the big one that has a U.
Yes. Yeah, and that was a hit. Which
is an unbelievable song. So Building Mystery is like one of the best songs ever written. So definitely check that out. Anyway, let's get back into hockey.
Yes.
We're going to talk about the All-Star game just a little bit, just about some of the cool things, and before we get into the rumors, because there's plenty of those going around. But what happened with Kendall Coyle, and it just, like, to me, that was the highlight of the last several All-Star games. Just for women's hockey, I know, Rush, you've been such a huge part of women's hockey for such a long time. You've interviewed her, you've interviewed a bunch of them.
Yeah, I got a bunch of times, Brianna Decker a bunch of times. I'm a big fan. I don't get to enough games. I don't cover their league every day. I don't have the time. Yeah. I did cover the first Isabel Cup. I was, at the Winter Classic when they had their outdoor classic.
Yeah.
I am a big supporter. And what's interesting is originally when they said Kendall Coyne was going to be inserted and it didn't start yet, there were some male chauvinistic views on Twitter. So I felt like I needed to go on there and let them know you need to watch this, because if you want to see fast, you will see fast.
Kendall can fly, and
she's as fast as some of the guys. If not, I mean, she could have won that if she had a better start. Because my wife had a very good point. Connor McDavid did have kind of a running start, and that did give him a little bit of an edge. Nobody else did a start like that. Just saying.
Yeah, I mean, and then there were people on Twitter taking on, oh, well, she's smaller, so it's easier for her to.
It has nothing to do with anything.
Nothing to do with anything. I mean, she's smaller, so she's got shorter legs. I mean, that's
and Connor McDavid takes less strides, right? I mean, because he's longer stride.
I mean, she was phenomenal. I mean, and she's fast. I mean, she showed that she's faster than probably half the players in the NHL. Like
absolutely.
I would say, that at least she's in the top 50% of speed in the NHL, if not the top 30. Like I mean, that's serious.
It's all about leg drive. It's all about stride. And honestly, if you watched what she did, she had the best edges of anybody because she went around those corners at full speed, and that gave her an advantage over a lot of the pros, the guys. So I mean, I thought that was great, and I could take up this show with the problems, with the things negative about All-Star Weekend. So I'll go positive, and it'll only take a minute or two. that was one, and Brianna Decker was another.
Yeah.
The skills contest again, I like, and I like the fact that Austin Matthews was wearing a Patrick Marleau jersey underneath his jersey, and they kept, he's getting that signed by I guess some of the San Jose Shark players, and they thought it was cool, and he's going to auction that off for charity. So that was a good thing. And during the game, and believe me, I tried to stay awake as much as I possibly could and failed. But while I was awake, the trail on the puck, it wasn't like the Fox days where it was like, explosions and lasers and this. It was a very subtle, like sort of like a pencil mark type of thing where you're following. Yeah. I didn't find that too bad. Like, honestly, I would be in favor of that being used on NBC or whatever.
But I heard when the names crisscrossed, it was
the names were terrible.
Yes. Yeah, the names, no, because they were doing that the like the speed of the player, but just like the trick, because for those people who have a problem, following where the puck goes, it was subtle enough that it wasn't distracting. So I would not have a problem with them doing that going forward.
Yeah.
The last thing I wanted to say too, was online. We kept seeing this undercurrent, like the women needed to get paid for what they did, right? And I was not going to put pressure on the NHL to pay them because, honestly, other than winning these events, I'm not sure the other players get paid anything. They just get expenses paid. So I didn't really understand it. But then I got an email later that day or the next day where Adidas signed Kendall Coyne, Brianna Decker, and Rebecca Johnston to multi-year contracts.
Really? That's great.
And that is a great thing. So if people were wondering or worried, or I think they were just being trollish, a lot of them, some of them were worried that, hey, they're not getting paid for this. They got paid. Trust me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they got paid with the exposure. They really did. I don't want to say that that's payment in full because it's not. But obviously, Adidas is a big partner with the NHL. And
that exposure that they got on there was
amazing.
It is a money-making thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to realize that the thing that most of these people, almost any athlete in like a minor sport, and I'm very familiar with this with soccer because it's a minor sport in the U.S. But when you get like national exposure like that in a minor sport, you can basically write your ticket to like running hockey camps for the rest of your life.
Like you could run, Kendall Coyne could be a stain remover, and you could remove that stain like that. Like that's a perfect advertisement.
More than that, though, is like the ability for her to run hockey camps. Like she can,
yes.
And and there's so much money in that. It's insane. Like there's this crazy house because, she can run like 3-week hockey camps 5 times a year with like 200 kids in it, each pay $5,000. It's ridiculous. Like the money that's there. So I mean, and they deserve it all. It's wonderful.
They do because there were many years they made nothing.
Oh, absolutely.
Final thing for me on this, the one problem I had, or one of many problems that I had, if you notice during the 3-on-3 tournament, especially the one between the Pacific and the Central, a goaltender is going to tear his groin in this 3-on-3. You saw Marc-Andre Fleury jumping up back.
No, right. I thought about that too. There were a couple times when you were wondering if somebody got hurt. I was another. The only thing the one thing I want to touch on the Austin Matthews thing real quick before we move on. Then I want to touch on this too, Mike. Is the Austin Matthews Patrick Marleau thing was so cool in that it was so well thought out by Austin to do that there, and and also the funniest thing about it to me though, and I don't know if anybody else wrote about it. I'm sure they did. It was off Twitter for the All-Star game because it got ridiculous. Yeah. So, but the funniest thing to me was how small his jersey.
Gord Stellick said that today.
Yeah,
you can tell. I mean, because Patrick Marleau is not built like Austin Matthews.
No,
so it's and it's not like they made an Austin Matthews size Patrick Marleau jersey.
Right,
that was definitely Patrick Marleau's jersey.
Well, that was definitely not like a Patrick Marleau Leaf jersey because the color scheme. Remember the color scheme for these All-Star jerseys, the ones that were the home and the road jerseys.
No, that was just a regular jersey, wasn't it?
Yeah. No. Because the color scheme for Matthews jersey, and it was like a white jersey with almost like black. It was the leaf was in black. The line, the lines in the shoulders were in black. It was not blue. It was not the regulation Leaf jersey. So I think it was an All-Star jersey. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'll look at the replay again, but I'm pretty sure it was not a regular Marleau jersey.
So someone said Marleau did chirp on Twitter about the jersey size. I mean, it did look like it was small. That was really
and Matthew said that the jersey size prevented him from shooting accurately. So that
I was wondering about that too. Like I was like, no one would ever say that, but he actually said that. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, I was just jokingly.
Okay. That's funny. That's a little bit passive aggressive, Austin. I'm sorry. Anyway, all right. So he's such a good guy. That's why it's so funny to say that. So anyway, the one thing I will say about the 3-on-3 game, and then we'll move on.
Yep.
There's one player who is absolutely better than anybody tings he is. Who do you think it is from watching? Did you watch the game? Who do you think I'm talking about?
I couldn't. I was at an engagement party. I watched the skills.
See if anyone in the chat room picks it up on him. Because I'll just say this player was like, he didn't win the MVP.
Johnny Gaudreau.
He was very good though all around, and just showed some serious skill like beyond what you would expect. And
somebody said Pierre Maguire. No, I'm kidding. They didn't.
Not Giroux. It's definitely not Giroux.
Gaudreau.
Not Gaudreau, who I think everybody knows Gaudreau's amazing. Like this guy's good. Everybody thinks he's good. He's been traded. He's been traded in the last like 5 years. Not Letang, not O'Reilly. He's been traded. So he's not Barzal, who was Barzal was fun to watch. Not Skinner. It's funny. No one's getting this, but this guy really and it stood out to me, and it was like not Aho.
Give it to us, please.
All right, the player I really thought, and I thought someone would get this for sure because my wife was watching it, and
you just got 10 answers from the chat room, and nobody
knows. Us, please.
Not Gritty. But she does see. So no, my wife. All right, somebody got it. There we go. Thank you, Seth Jones. And it's just like we all know that Seth Jones is good, and B Cup's got it on there. But we all know that Seth Jones is good, obviously. But I don't know that we know how good he is really, because he plays in Columbus. We don't see him all that often, and he showed some serious skill, like on on a breakaway, on his ability to stick handle it for his size is pretty phenomenal. Like we always see him as a defenseman, but that guy could be a forward in the NHL without any problem at all. Like there's no question he could play, and he would be an all-star as a forward. So
last year he had 57 points, 16 goals. We talked about him like crazy. This year
we talk about him a little bit, but I wouldn't say we talk about him like crazy because
I think he was brought up quite a bit. This year we haven't brought him up as much, and to be honest, this year he's a little off right now.
Yeah. Yeah,
but he's still having a good year, but not a great year.
Most of these guys,
that he possesses, the talent level he possesses. Is
most of these guys have top end skill. It's just a question of time and space. If they have the time and space, I mean, I remember back in the day there was a defensive defenseman for the Sabres named Bill Height. The guy scored on penalty shots. He was the best guy on penalty shots when they ever had open practices or even scored in a game. It's just when it was like at NHL speed, he didn't have the opportunity to really be an offensive player.
Oh, and yeah, you're right. And that's funny because they talked about that on, I don't know if you guys saw Sports Central at noon today, but and I thought they brought up Brendan, Kobe Armstrong brought up one of the coolest ideas. And I think they kind of passed it really quickly. But the idea of going out there and getting some of these like YouTube sensations that do amazing things.
Yeah, it was a good idea.
Bringing them to the skills competition, like these aren't guys who are going to be ever in the NHL, but they have like incredible talents, with the puck, or I think that would be really an interesting thing for the NHL to do, and I'm surprised they haven't thought of it. It's something the way the NHL.com people work.
I think they have thought of it. I'll tell you what I think they're afraid of. They don't want these guys looking better than NHLers, so they don't want them wearing NHL jerseys. So there's going to be a whole thing like that. It's going to have to be some sort of like, this is like the NHL street competition, or they're going to have to do something like that.
They're going to get that 15-year-old Japanese kid who made the YouTube move.
And we talk about, they talk about on Sports Central how there's been like players, who are one-trick ponies. Like there are guys who never make the NHL that can shoot the puck 105 miles an hour. It just it happens, and it's not surprising, but that does happen. And there's guys that are super fast, like the AHL guy who beat Matthews before.
All I can say is that this weekend just convinced me more than anything and I told this to Russ earlier this morning, they should take the skills competition. They should fold it in to the Winter Classic. They should extend, they have like basically a halfway thing like they're doing right now with an 8 or 9 day break. They should put it all together in one thing and eliminate the actual game, because the game is dreadful. It is absolutely a waste of time.
I would say this. I've pushed for the Winter Classic All-Star Game. I still would love to see it.
I would like to do that too, because it would bring everybody. It would save money for everybody too. It would save a lot of money.
Yeah. It would still be a mega event, but I get that they want separate events, but it still would be a mega event.
And if you have it in an NHL city, like if they're having it in Dallas, then you have the skills competition at the arena, and then you have the outdoor game at wherever they're going to have it. So
you can have like the Winter Classic you can have the Winter Classic on the 1st and the All-Star game on the 2nd or something like that. Just
right.
Like a Saturday, Sunday, or whatever that is, going to work out. And that, by the way, since we've been here, the Predators Dallas Stars Winter Classic got announced. I was really disappointed that this wasn't in Nashville. That was the only thing about this. I was so happy that they were playing, but
actually at the event, I may have even tweeted that Nashville would be a good choice. I probably did tweet it that day, because when they didn't come out with it, that was one of the teams that I was talking to a few of the guys from Sirius, and they were like the second team we came up with that would have a fan base that's big enough that would travel, because the Cotton Bowl is a big venue to fill. No offense to Stars fans, but they weren't going to be able to fill it on their own.
That's true. That's true. No, it's still going to be fun and everything like that. But
it's going to be great. I'll be there.
Yeah, I'm gonna make them.
I'll be there with my Spurs on.
I haven't been to that. I think the first event I ever covered for the NHL was the Dallas All-Star game I went to. So that was.
I wouldn't mind going back just for another tour of the Pecan Lounge, Russ.
I've never been to the Cotton Bowl, but when I did go to the University of Houston, Doug Flutie did beat University of Houston in the Cotton Bowl. Not the big game that everybody thinks about, but he did beat them in that, and they lost the Cotton Bowl, and I was really upset about that.
Yeah. I miss the. I miss the old. I mean, I know the Cotton Bowl still exists, but I miss like the old. I was talking to somebody about that. Like when I was a kid, I really got into college bowls. Like the way that used to be. I remember the Texas and Texas A&M games were just like that was
weird how the Cotton Bowl is not affiliated with any school though, which is weird. I thought it would be, and it's not.
I know it's not at all. I
think it used to be. I think it used to be tied to a conference that's no longer in existence. I think it was tied to the. It was tied to the SWAC, the SWAC.
Is that why like Texas and Texas A&M would play in the Cotton Bowl? Like I remember them.
Right. Right. Or one of them, or or the champion of that league. Right. Now I don't even think the SWAC is a league anymore.
Yeah, this was by the way, just to further this was the 1985 Cotton Bowl. BC beat Houston 45-28. It's the only time I cared about college football, and I was crushed. The one time.
All right, Russ, you had something you wanted to.
Sorry, we'll get into.
So I looked up. I sent some information around the other day. I'll see if I can pull it up here. I was curious how attendance was going for the Islanders in the new Coliseum, and so I did look it up, and it's not going as well as I thought it would. To be honest, actually, I think it could be better. Yeah, I'm going to read you the numbers. I just have to get it. Hold on.
Yeah, that's surprising because I mean I've talked to a couple people who've gone to a couple of games up there.
Well, because it's.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, because it's one of those things where people, I think because of the nostalgia, are going to tell you that, hey, it's better than you think, but it's not. Hold on.
And the reason that I brought up is because everybody knows this is a temporary thing. If they had said we're going back to Nassau Coliseum, I think the attendance would be, I think it'd be sold out most nights.
Yeah,
they've sold out what, 2 times, Russ?
Yeah. So here's the attendance. So for Nassau, their first game was 13,917. That's a sellout. Yeah. Second one was 13,917. So that was a sellout. Then now this thing won't scroll. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I mean, while you're waiting for that, I think that's
scrolling. The next one was 13,454. The next one was 13,769, and then it was 12,088, and then they had a sellout against the Ducks. So it's like they're getting close, and they've had 3 sellouts, but they should sell out every game.
It was 1,200 against. It was 12,000.
12,000 against. It was against the Devils.
Yeah,
but you know what? It doesn't matter. There's
no, it doesn't matter. I know. I'm just. We
could say that like it's against this team, but
It could have been on a Tuesday night or something like that.
I don't even care about that.
It was also like the 4th night, and the Islanders had this crazy schedule where they played a bunch of home games near each other, and that I think does play.
Actually, it didn't, because here's the all right. So people don't want to hear this, but the biggest, most well attended Devils Islander game this year was against the Rangers at the Barclays, 15,497. That was on the 12th. Right. On the 13th at the Barclays, then it dropped to 11. On the 15th, it dropped to 10. But then the next game was on the 17th, and the next one was on the 20th, and they got 12, and then they got a sellout. So I don't think it has anything to do with anything other than Islander fans really need to start showing up better. They do.
And you can't say that it's not because the team isn't good, because they're having a great run.
They're good right now. I mean, and they're good this year. And I agree. And I can flat out tell you, from our statistics on Hockey Buzz, when we have, the reason I'm writing columns for the Islanders right now is because there's such a huge Islanders following. Like they are not, and that has to do with a lot of things. But part of it has to do with we've had people like B.D. Gallup in the past, and we'll do Bill Great and D. Carl who did a great job covering the Islanders for us, but and build a Islanders community on Hockey Buzz. But they're one of those teams that has like an enormous fan base, and I think that they are waiting. I think there's some suspicion about this team still to them.
But it still doesn't, like, you know what I mean? Like the Coliseum, the team's playing well.
They're in first place at the halfway point. they should absolutely, if they can't get it together that second half of the season, then I do bring it into question. I agree with you completely.
And we do know one game that'll sell out. I think it's February 28th, which is when John Tavares makes his return to Nassau Coliseum.
Will the Islanders be ahead of the Leafs in the standings at that point? That'll be phenomenal if they are.
That would be actually okay. But here's what needs to be said, though. So the new arena the proposal is for 18,000 seats.
Mm-hmm.
I have serious questions whether they will be able to, after the first year, fill that 18,000 seat arena on a regular basis. I do.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to have those questions.
No, and that is fair because I think part of the Islanders. I mean, if you've ever been out there, and not a lot of people have, who are watching this, have ever been out to Long Island and to Nassau, where that is. It is very specific to almost like a. Long Island itself is its own entity. Like, it has nothing to do with New York at all. Like,
it's disconnected from everything, even though it's right over.
Yeah, even though it's
right over the border, but it's still like it's disconnected from everything.
It is. It's like its own little country, and people are from Long Island. Like you are, right? You're from Long Island, correct? Yeah, a lot of them are always from Long Island. They end up in Long Island. They stay.
I've never been to Riverhead, which is like at the very end of Long Island. I've never been there. I've been to the Hamptons. But I've never been to the far end of it.
Yeah, there are monsters out there in the canyons, they say. Anyway, no,
those are probably people from Buffalo that moved.
It's a Billy Joel reference to Downeaster Alexa. Sorry, I'm bringing those.
Oh yeah.
All right. So there.
But 18,000 seats. That's my worry. Is will they actually fill that? Because
15,000 Islanders fans that'll pay money to buy the tickets. There's a ton of Islanders fans that'll watch it.
Not 15, 18.
I know. That's why I'm wondering. Yeah. That's why I say 18. I think you're right. I think Nassau was always smallish, and because it's smallish, it was an easy sellout, especially when the team was winning all the Stanley Cups.
Like, this hasn't been built yet. Let me ask a legitimate question here. This hasn't been built yet. If you're building this and you're looking, and they've got to be looking at these numbers for the Coliseum, do you say just stop at 15? Just make it 15?
No, because you want 18,000 seats for concerts and things of that nature. What you may do is tarp off sections.
Yeah, you might have to black it out.
Or bring that Honda pickup truck from Barclays and have that parked somewhere.
No, you're not allowed to.
I hope they don't bring the SUV. But no, all right. So you're right. For concerts, you don't want to do that. But I can't imagine after the first year they're gonna, unless something really changes, because you have Matt Barzal is one of the best players in the league. You have one of the best coaches to coach in this league in the last decade. You got one of the best GMs. Like, everything is there. People need to sell that place out.
They're going to be good, and they're going to be good for a while. But the one thing that they don't have, and this is what a lot of people question, is and I think Barzal can be this, but that natural, like that superstar type thing, and that obviously Tavares was that, and that was an issue. And the Islanders team that most people grew up with in the 80s that won all those Stanley Cups was packed full of them. So this is a group that I think does want a star, and I think that is why the Islanders will be in on Panarin, and whether or not
I'll definitely be in on him.
He's a flashy because he's a flashy type star type player, and it's not like he's all that. He's not 100% better than Barzal, but he's got a different element to him that is definitely flashy, And
but the chickens are going to come home to roost for the Islanders in the sense that, okay, you've got Leonard, who's probably comeback player of the year. He's on a 1-year deal, so you have to extend him. You've got Brock Nelson and Anders Lee as UFAs. You're going to have to probably overpay one of them, and maybe the other one leaves. I probably think they would keep Lee and let go of Nelson, although, if Nelson's contract demand is reasonable. And then you have to extend Barzal. And Barzal, if you're going to try to get him on an 8-year deal, it's probably going to cost you around $10 million. And if you try to get him on a 5-year deal, it's probably going to cost you 7 or 8. So all of a sudden, all these bills come due after 1 year of Barry Trotz. That's a problem for an organization that doesn't make a ton of money.
Yeah, and knowing Lou the way he is, right? I'd anticipate what they're going to do is shorter terms, higher money.
Right. Well, that's what they're going to try and do, but guys don't want to do that.
I know.
Right. But apparently, that is the way that a lot of league observers think that this big RFA crop that's coming out next summer, that's the direction that a lot of people are going to go.
They're going to have to. People are going to have to do that.
They're talking about a 5 or 6 year deal when it comes to Matthews in Toronto.
And here's a good example, like Mike said with Leonard. You're talking about a 3-year contract because even backups get 3-year contracts now. Jonathan Bernier got a 3-year contract, so he's going to get 3-year contract somewhere between 15 and 18 million bucks.
Exactly.
I bet for Leonard they go 5. I bet they go 5.25, that kind of thing. I bet
they could.
I mean, because I think they do believe in him, obviously, and
if Barzal is going to get around $8 million, $8
to $8.5,
maybe $8.5. Anders Lee is going to get the same contract as Barzal.
I don't think so. I think he's probably $1 million or $1.5 million less.
I don't know about that because he's got more time. He's got more time served. He's going to have to get the same contract.
He's scored 30 goals and he's had other 20 goals.
Well, I think he should. I think he should, but I don't think he.
And he's a center. He's a center.
He's a center as well.
I mean, I agree. I mean,
so when you talk about, let's say you're talking about spending that on Ladd, spending that on Barzal, spending that on Leonard. Now you're talking about Panarin. That's pretty much it after that if they were to get him.
Yeah, I mean, are you going to buy out Johnny Boychuk? Are you going to bury Andrew Ladd on LTIR? I mean, there's got to be ways.
Try to do something with Ladd's contract for sure.
I mean, if there's an island in Long Island Sound that you can double as Robidas Island, Lou Lamoriello will find it.
That is Island. Come on, man.
This day, one of the worst, and we knew it the second it happened. The Andrew Ladd. Remember, we knew that was bad. We were like, that was baffling to all of us at the time it happened. It was just completely.
The second year, he recouped it a little. He
did
a few more points, but it's bad. But these are the challenges the Islanders are going to face. And the thing is, what date is this?
January 29th.
Had they broken ground yet on the new arena, like Lou said they would?
No,
not yet.
Yeah, no, that's a tough one. I agree with you
because they did say they were going to do it in January, did they not?
Yeah, they're supposed to. I mean, I guess it's I don't know.
The ground is pretty hard.
So you're saying they can't break the permafrost? Is that what you're saying, Mike?
The polar vortex is going to kill us all next week.
It keeps breaking. It keeps breaking shovels, and they don't want to spend money at Home Depot on new shovels.
All right, we talked about LeBron was having I don't know if we talked about this beforehand. I guess we did. About like the concept of different teams battling each other. Well, I wrote yesterday about one of those, and I wanted to get into it. Was that Derek Brassard? Okay, Derek Brassard is, if you remember how this all went down last year. Mm-hmm. Ottawa had Derek Brassard, of course, and they were trying to move him to Winnipeg. Mm-hmm. The Penguins had, and it was close. It was getting really close. At one point, I think even like Darren Dreger or something said it was close to done. It looked like Brassard was heading to Winnipeg, and then suddenly out of nowhere, he ended up in Pittsburgh via the Golden Knights taking on $4.5 million of salary in the deal, and basically it was
over 2 years.
He's like keeping him away from Winnipeg. That was the concept, right? So. Now Brassard is again available. And again, I've heard Winnipeg as a possible destination for him. And I know that, we're talking about LeBron said Wayne Simmons is a possible destination for Winnipeg. Winnipeg's trying to do something like this. This is the kind of player they're trying to get.
Sure.
So they're looking at Brassard.
Although I think they're vastly different players. I do.
I'd rather have Simmons over Brassard any day of the week. But I'm not a Brassard. I've never been a Brassard fan, but he has, he has
Brassard is more of a fit and this is the problem that has happened with him in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh got Brassard because they thought he would be the adequate replacement for Nick Bonino as a third-line center, and he's not the sort of gritty, defensive-minded two-way guy that Bonino ended up being.
Definitely not.
Yeah, he's a skilled player. He's more of a
second-line center, and they put him in a third-line role, and it's not
correct.
That's what's happening. So now Winnipeg. Could they make him a second line? He'd still be like kind of a third line.
No, he'd still be a third line center.
But also the other team that's interested in him again, and this time maybe not just to keep him away from Winnipeg, but to actually they're already paying him $4.5 million. Are the Vegas Golden Knights? That'd be kind of fascinating. I don't know if we've ever seen that before. Where a team that actually I mean they're paying him as it is, right? So that's
I don't know if he would help them. To be honest, I don't think. They're spending money now just to keep away from anybody. I don't think they're in that mode.
They're cap max almost, aren't they? They're like
no.
No way. But you got to remember about Brassard is that Brassard is a three because of that salary sharing. He's only a $3 million cap hit. So for a team looking for offense and bolstering up the middle as a number 2 or number 3 center, but maybe in a more offensive role, not a strict number 3 where he's a checker. Brassard would be a good ad and a relatively inexpensive ad. Now, what I heard, and I can't remember,
almost $10 million in cap space.
Yeah, what I heard, and I can't remember who said it, but it was not. I'm just reporting what I heard. Brassard might be part of a deal involving Michael Furland and Carolina, with Furland going to Pittsburgh, because Pittsburgh doesn't have the cap space to take on Furland if they don't clear Brassard, and Brassard could then be flipped for draft picks and prospects because he's a rental. It would be part of the package, but not staying in Carolina.
They're only paying $2 million on Brassard, not $3 million.
No, his salary is $3 million.
No, but it's only a $2 million that they're paying.
Right, $2 million of the 4.5 that they're like.
But here's the other part: we have to. The first mistake George McPhee made, and he did make one, was not keeping Thomas Tatar, because Tatar is having a great year, and they're paying part of his salary.
Yeah,
they are. I know.
That is a deal and a half for the Canadians.
Brassard is a $5 million cap hit. The cap hit to Pittsburgh is $3 million.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So they so Vegas retained 2.
Retained 2, right? Okay. Well, I guess altogether they were retaining 4.5.
That was the long arithmetic that Mike just did.
No, I think what I meant was $4.5 million altogether of their of the 2.5 years they basically had.
I'm a product of the Buffalo Public Schools, Russ. There you go.
Yeah. Now the interesting thing about that trade too that people don't always realize is that that's how Vegas got Ryan Reeves, right? Which turned out to be a player that got them past Winnipeg. I really felt like Reeves was the star in that, or not past Winnipeg, but what am I talking about? What am I saying here? Yes, past Winnipeg.
I'm not sure. Ask Gritty. I'm not sure what you're saying.
Past Winnipeg. Thanks. I'm very confused. All right,
but I just think that, I mean, funny thing is that Winnipeg has a limited window, because next summer and we'll talk about this with Peter tomorrow, but they have those big deals coming up with Laine, with Connor, with Trouba as an RFA. It's a lot of money that they have to allocate. This might be their last chance, in the sense of, with this group, to make one addition, add that player, go to war, and then next year you may see a couple players, just like with Tampa, you may see Tyler Johnson moved out because they've got Stamkos and Cirelli and Braden Point. They can't afford a $5 million third line center, whereas they can afford a guy like Cirelli who's on his entry level contract. It's the same thing. The same thing goes with Winnipeg. They may have to trade a Brian Little to fit other people.
Yeah.
So I wrote on this on the weekend, and we'll talk about the Leafs in a little bit. I wrote on the weekend, I don't see, based on what I think they're going to pay Matthews, what I think they're going to pay Marner and Kapanen and Janssen on bridge deals, I don't see how they keep William Nylander. They're paying $61 million, if my calculations are anywhere close to being correct, on forwards alone. I don't know how they afford that.
Yeah, I think that's been the general consensus. And the question is, I guess the question is, when do you move them, right? I mean, and I guess
after July 1st, after they pay
the first, and and that brings up, one of the things I wrote about my blog today, which I think is people don't realize, is for us and Hockey Buzz, and just in general for hockey fans, if you cut the year in half at the All-Star game, just the entire year, 12 months, a half at the All-Star game, from the All-Star game on, from here on, is by far the more exciting 6 months of the season. Not just because you have the Stanley Cup final, but you got the trade deadline, you have the award.
I don't think anybody would argue that.
You have the draft, right? And so it's really, and it's funny because the first 6 months you have the opening of the season and then the All-Star game, and that's about it. Now we have so many things happening. It really gets exciting and fun to follow these things. And Nylander is going to have to be moved either at the draft or beyond, or after July 1st, like you're saying. But I mean, Nylander, and a lot of that will depend on how he does in the playoffs.
It depends too. I mean, everybody thinks that the Leafs will just automatically pay this bonus. There might be a team that is willing to pay the bonus and just give up a little less to get him at the draft, so they can start marketing him. It is possible.
Or Russ, they do what they did with Jonathan Bernier a couple years ago. They agreed to the trade at the draft, and it's announced after July 1st because then the Leafs pay the $8.3 million. And
that could happen.
That's pocket change to MLS and E. They'll pay it if they can get better return. And I think I don't think it matters that much what Nylander does this year. I mean, obviously people want him to bounce back and score at the rate that he did in his first couple of years. But he's 22 years old and he's got a lot of talent. And if he has one, bad half year, I don't think it's going to scare a lot of teams away, especially teams out there that need scoring in big bunches. And there's not a ton of scoring out there.
No, I think that's fair. Actually, X should talk about the rumor that he just wrote about in the chat room.
Yeah, so someone wrote that they talked about Hagelin moving again, which I do think is going to happen. I think there's no question that he'll move again, and I think the Islanders are a good fit for him. I really do. I think that that's a good place. I know the Islanders, would ideally like to get an experienced defenseman. That's something they would love to grab, and they can do that.
They definitely need that. There's no question.
It's not out of the question to be able to do though. There are players out there that you can pick up, that could, not Lovejoy necessarily, but guys like that, that are those guys. Who played in the playoffs.
The rental market is, if you eliminate the guys Carlson's not moving, Gardner's not moving, Strawman's not moving, and Tyler Myers are not moving. All these teams are competing for Stanley Cup, so they're not going to trade defense or defensive depth. Right. If you eliminate those guys, the best guys in terms of UFA rentals are Ben Lovejoy, Nicholas Kronwall, Jay Bouwmeester. It's not a deep.
There's one guy you're leaving out.
Go ahead. I was going to keep going, but go ahead. Who?
No, go ahead. Finish out, and then I'll tell you if you left him off.
I'm just doing this off the top of my head. So,
all right. Because since I can't see in your head, I'm going to go. Kevin Shattenkirk could be another.
Well, he's not a UFA. I'm talking about a rental.
No. I'm just talking about who could be traded. Okay.
Yeah, I was talking about pure rentals. Talking about pure rentals. And you're right. If the Rangers are sticking to their rebuild plan, and he's got, I think, 2 years left at like 6.8, something like that.
It's less than that. I think it's less than that even.
Yeah, I thought it was in the 5s. Right.
No, it was over 6. Remember, he took a 4-year deal,
but he took less. The weird thing about this is he took less. His deal was always strange. He took less money because he wanted to go there.
6.65.
Okay. He wanted to go there. We all knew that. Everybody knew that's where he wanted to go, right? So, and then I don't think he got like a no movement clause in that deal somehow, which is like
according to modified no trade and no move. So he did.
Yeah. So he's going to get offered up at the deadline. Whether there's a deal to be made, who knows?
And whether he'll waive the no move clause.
Right.
I mean he took shorter term to go there. So why would he waive it?
Yeah,
because he wants to win a Stanley Cup, and a team who
maybe
win the Stanley Cup might want him.
Or he thinks very much that he just doesn't think he fits in with the group. Like he doesn't see himself moving forward with that group.
Yeah, I mean,
I thought a lot of people one of the things that was really awesome about the All-Star thing was Lundqvist's thing in general. We should mention that briefly because Lundqvist had a great All-Star thing, and not just an All-Star thing, but
Rick Lundqvist is disgusting, and he makes regular men like us look bad.
Yeah,
I'm continuing on with that.
Except
for yourself, Russ.
You forget, Russ, the time you and I sat in Madison Square Garden and waited forever for him to come out because of his stupid hair or whatever.
No, that was amazing.
I believe I'm as pretty as Henrik Lundqvist.
No, but X right. This was the most. We almost could write.
It was the Stanley Cup Finals.
An article just on waiting for Henrik Lundqvist to do his hair. It's true.
It was crazy. We sat there and people left. I mean, there were like
a lot of people left.
A lot of media people who were on deadlines. They we can't do this. But Russ and I became like a vigil after a while. Right? We're not going anywhere. We're going to see how good he looks after all this time.
Yeah.
Because we sat there in the room, in Madison Square Garden, and there was just there's the table.
The setup was this. The setup was they put the name cards out there first, and Lundqvist was there first. Then Lundqvist doesn't show, so they shuffle around the name cards, and it was somebody and Lundqvist. So one guy sat down. Then it wasn't going to be Lundqvist, so they took off Lundqvist's card, and somebody else sat down. Then they put Lundqvist's card because there was nobody else to bring, and then we were just waiting.
We waited and waited and waited, like twice as long as we had been there for the entire other press conference. Yes. And then he comes out, and like we hadn't. Oh, you know who else was? It was the other. The guy, he's in Tampa now. The other defenseman, the Swedish defenseman, was the other guy.
Oh, Strawman. Strawman was the other.
Strawman. So
Yeah, he came out first to sort of lengthen it.
Joked about it with Strawman because it's like, where's Lundqvist? Is he taking forever with his hair or whatever? And he's like, yeah, you know him.
I don't have those kind of problems.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, you know, you're the best dressed man on Hockey Buzz, Mike. You know that.
Yeah, great. That's an exclusive group. Russ and I.
I want to talk about one thing really quickly before Russ's point, which I'm sure is better than this one. But I'm gonna bring this one first. I'm just kidding. I did survive the melatonin thing, by the way. I slept really well, but I did.
Oh, good. We knew you would.
But I was losing it by the end of the show. All right, so Panarin, okay, is the next one I wanted to bring up because there are talks now that Panarin's agent wants to talk to the Blue Jackets, and a lot of people are making this like, oh, this is a big deal that Panarin's going to go back to Blue Jackets. He's happy there. I don't buy that at all. Okay, it's possible, and if that indeed happens, there should be huge props going out to JD, Kukalainen, and Zito, and all the people in Columbus if they get him back, because they have handled this Panarin thing and this Bobrovsky thing better than I think anybody could have. Like they have made it so, talking to the players, they've been like, listen, you don't want to be here, you don't want to be here, but you know, you're still here now, so give us your best. We'll do what we can to help you. That's literally the attitude they've had for these players, and that is phenomenal because a lot of teams don't have that. And I think it's important that gets out there because you know, this is a city where players are going to want to play because of the way they handled this situation. It's
but the big question, I'm looking it up. They've $18 million in cap space.
Right.
This is a team that on purpose does not spend near the cap based on attendance, ticket prices, that town, that market, all that. Do they all of a sudden have the green light to spend, you know, real NHL money now? That's the question.
You know, and I don't think they have that green light until they make some real NHL money by winning a playoff series. Like,
I mean, because quick off top of your head, who is their highest paid player?
Seth Jans.
No, Bobrovsky,
but player. Forget about goalies.
Oh, Panarin is.
No, player would be Panarin
is.
Panarin is, but it's only $6 million, and then Atkinson's at 5'8", Dubinsky's at 5'8". Seth Jones is at 5'4". Like, nobody's making big NHL money,
right?
And that may have to change because you've got a couple of defensemen, including Werenski, coming off ELC. So you're probably gonna, if you're them, you want to get him locked up for as long as possible. I mean, that's the thing. Like, say they re-sign Panarin. Panarin probably cost them $10 million a year. That's only a $4 million increase from what they're paying him right now. But if you're Kekalainen, you're going to have to make some decisions, maybe some buyouts. A guy like Dubinsky is I think is wasted money at almost $6 million. You know, maybe you can trade David Savard and clear $4.25 million. You're going to have to make decisions to clear the space if you're going to re-sign just one of these guys.
Well, they don't have to clear any space, is my point. If they
I mean, I'm talking about in terms of a budget, not in terms of the cap.
Yeah,
well, that's what I'm wondering now. Are they willing to break the budget? This is what I think what Eck is sort of getting at here is they might be willing to break the budget for Panarin.
Yeah, they are.
We never took that into consideration because they've been a budget team this whole time.
Oh yeah, they are. And the question, so like I said, if for some chance Panarin ends up signing there again, that will have all to do with Kukalainen and Zito.
Well, the fans bought the billboard, and Panarin took his picture in front of the billboard.
There's that too, right? And there's definitely been so that Panarin wanted this meeting to happen. And now what I wonder about this is a couple things because I've dealt with agents a lot, and there's a lot of good clues in this. Okay, so this is like a little inside baseball thing for what it's worth.
Okay,
agents often are deal makers in terms of trades. Okay,
right.
So it is possible that Panarin's agent, who I'm not sure who he is right now,
Dan Milstein.
Dan Milstein, okay, who's a good agent.
He's a good one.
And so it makes sense that if you're a Panarin fan, and you want to keep him in Columbus, know that you have a reasonable team and a reasonable agent. So that's good. You got no one's gonna anyway. But he may have found a couple teams that have talked to him. I'm sure teams have talked to him about the fact that they want Panarin long term and how much is it going to cost them if they want to sign him next year. And that's not really illegal for them to talk to the agent, I don't believe.
Well,
it might be, but there's ways of getting around it, right? So anyway, but let me finish this thought. Okay. So he has these trades. He might have some trades in mind, and is going to Columbus and saying, "Listen, you know, you might be able to get more for Panarin because we know we can sign with him, and we can make this deal so that we sign an extension with this team, and that you can get more for him, which would be a nice thing for him to do, and Panarin to do, and everybody ends up where they want to be.
Right.
Or he is reading the trade rumors, all over the internet about Panarin, and Panarin wants to know what's the deal. Is he going to be there through the trade deadline or not? That's another possibility here, because Panarin might want to be like, I just want mentally to know, and you like be saying, I'm not going to sign with you. So do you have any idea yet whether or not you're going to trade me before the deadline or let me play out the playoffs?
Well, I mean, Pierre LeBrun reported, and I think it was over the weekend, that Milstein and the Blue Jackets, the window in terms of them meeting is the next week to 10 days. Now, if you plot that out with like other players and other teams and other situations, they want to come to some sort of resolution or find out, clarify what's going on before, say, February 10th, because after that, it's 2 weeks to the deadline. And then if you can't reach an agreement, then it's like, okay, I have to shop you. I have to get the most that I possibly can. And that makes sense. I mean, maybe there's an avenue where Milstein, like you said, helps out the Blue Jackets. Says, I know he wants to go there, and they'll pay you more, so that I can help you arrange a deal. Yep. But at a certain point, if you don't know what he wants to do, or if he's not saying what he wants to do, or if he's saying I'm going to go to market, if you're Kekalainen, you have to go on the assumption he's not staying here. And do I keep him and risk him walking for nothing and just for the hope of getting out of the first round for the first time in franchise history, or do I move him and get as much as I can for him? That's a big decision.
I mean, clearly, if he gets signed, he gets signed in the next 2 weeks. Like, that's obvious.
Yeah, and I don't think the Blue Jackets will be opposed to playing it out and losing him for nothing, or whatever they're going to get for his rights, or whatever.
Yeah. They get like a conditional second or third.
Yeah. But I think because of the fact that the Blue Jackets, they have to go win a playoff round. I mean, it's like, this is a team that's never won a playoff round. If you're going to pay these kind of contracts, the money that you make in the NHL is in the playoffs. It's like, that's where you make your money. Like, in the regular season pays for your players, but the owners and stuff like that, if you want to do more, this is why you've seen the Predators, for example, a team that used to be $20 million under the cap at times, be closer to the cap because they've had a lot of playoff revenues over the last years.
I'll give you a way that they could save future money. So I noticed that Ryan Murray is an RFA, and I know he's important to that team. But if you're going to give a boatload of money to Panarin, they might trade Murray knowing that he is an RFA because he does have value, because he's making 2.9. He's going to make at least double that.
Yeah, well, he's the top pairing defenseman, and they have their top pairing defensemen are set. Like they have Rowinski and Jones are their top pairing. That's their top pair.
Well, right, and then Russ, the only way that they can, that's the second year of a 2-year bridge. He's 2 years away from being an unrestricted free agent, so they probably want to sign him to a long-term deal. The only way that they can do that is by clearing salary like a David Savard. I mean, they would have to. You have to make a value judgment. You're going to re-sign Werenski. You want to re-sign Murray. If you want to trade Murray, they
might keep Savard though, Mike, because he's only at 4.2, and get rid of Murray because he's going to cost them 6.
Right.
Yeah, I want to answer some questions in the chat room. We got a bunch of questions coming in through here.
Has nothing to do with talent, by the way.
Yeah, and after that, Russ and I are doing like the teams that were that are going to be buyers. So we did Boston and Tampa in terms of the prospects that we think that they don't want to move out. We're going to do Toronto before the end.
Okay, great, perfect. Okay, so there's a question in here. Rask was just put on IR apparently.
Yep. Yeah,
which I did not see that happened just during the show.
Yeah, he got concussed right before the All-Star break.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, I know he got hurt, but I know he was actually put on IR. He was put on IR today, apparently. Yeah. And this is definitely a tough one because although Boston likes their backup, I think that at the end of the day, if they're going to go anywhere, like we talked about before, they've got to get somebody, right? So this is to me is a really good landing spot for Cam Talbot.
Yeah, I was going to say this could be Talbot because
I've heard them talking more to Detroit, but Jimmy Howard is just like Kevin came on here. It sounds like Jimmy Howard they really want to keep him there in Detroit. So I don't know.
And I don't think Bobrovsky's getting moved, and I don't think Boston would be willing to give up the cachet that would take to get Bobrovsky. So
yeah, I don't think Bobrovsky getting moved either. I really don't. I don't think Panarin or Bobrovsky are going to move. I think they're going to try to win in the playoffs. There's a rumor that apparently Bob McKenzie's been out there that Thomas Boyle's telling us in the chat room. I haven't seen this one. That Ghost is in play if they get the right deal. That being Gostisbehere.
Well, all right. So basically, Fletcher said everybody's in play except for Giroux because of his contract is probably untouchable.
Right.
But just saying everybody's in play doesn't mean everybody's in play. I mean, let's be real.
Right.
I seriously doubt that Provorov is in play.
He could be, though, because of that contract. We don't know.
Exactly. I mean, Gostisbehere is signed, so there's a different. I mean, the difference there
at a reasonable amount.
Yeah, at a reasonable amount.
I don't know. Yeah, that's
something. He's not having a great year, so if they would be selling low in that sense.
He's not having a great year, but I'll say this about
he's still valuable. I mean, obviously
valuable, and it's the toughest thing on young defense. And someone brought this up, and I really do think that this has played into the Flyers' demise more than anything else. And I mean, people talk about the goaltending. Obviously, the goaltending has been a big part of their demise this year. There's no two ways about that. But the goaltending plays really hard into young defensemen. Like if you have bad goaltending, young defensemen are going to do stupid things because they're going to try to, more than normal. Like a solid goaltender that a defenseman can trust is a huge difference for that defenseman. And I think a lot of what you're seeing with Gostisbehere is that too, like just trying to do.
But you know what? It hasn't improved much, even with Hart and Net. It hasn't.
I know, but I don't think Hart though is still like he's not. I'm talking about like a really.
Oh, okay.
They don't. I mean, they trust Hart. They think Hart's a better goalie, but they don't at the same time. Still. They're also playing hard to defend Hart. Like there's definitely that because he's such a young kid and they want him to succeed. No one's being able to play without worrying about the goaltending in Philadelphia ever. That's the issue. So that I think is played into Gostisbehere's game. But where I don't, and Russ, you and I, and you're the biggest proponent of this all the time in the press box, and you're absolutely right, is that Gostisbehere can't hit a cow in a barn with a banjo as far as his shot goes. He's just. I mean, his shot is so wide, so far off all the time. It just kills him. And
Gostisbehere still has value because A, he's a defenseman, and B, he's breathing. That's how much defensemen are in.
He's a skilled player, and he's got.
I'm not saying he's not. I'm just saying, for people who say, well, he's having a bad year and it lowers his value. Yeah, but he's had good years in the past, and he's on a good contract, and he's a young defenseman. So if they decide they want to move him, they'll get value back for him.
I think the fact that he's on a good contract could keep him there, and that's what could get someone like Hag or Sanheim traded, simply because they're not there yet. Well, and that's where I think they might be at.
And the other one, the name that keeps coming up, and I know that his name has been mentioned in connection with Toronto, is Gudas. And I maybe 3 weeks or a month ago, I thought, okay, there's a good chance that they'll trade him. I don't think that there's a good chance they'll trade him now, simply because the Bobby Clark, Paul Holmgren, management influence, that they want aggressive Flyers hockey. Nothing speaks to that more than Radko Gudas. So why would they trade him?
And they don't really have anybody else like that. Hag is sort of turned into that a little. Yeah. They don't have anybody like that. Now, Sam Morin, when he eventually comes back off this injury, will be looked at that way, but we don't know if he could do that at the NHL level. That's what we'll find out in the rest of this season.
Right? Yeah. He's close to coming back, correct?
Yes. But right now, I think it's fair to mention, because you mentioned Cam Talbot.
Yeah.
The Flyers have 5 goalies. Okay, move on, Nick. It's nothing to talk about.
5 goalies is insane. They only have 4 lockers for goalies, like Russ was pointing out.
Yeah.
5.
From there, but that's 5 goalies. I mean, something's got to give, and I mean, it's not necessarily their fault they have 5 goalies. I mean, they've been in.
It is their fault. No, it is their fault.
All right.
Yeah, this is
injuries though. Every one of them is
ridiculous. This is ridiculous mismanagement on an apocalyptic scale.
But how can you plan for injuries like this? You just can't.
Yeah, but they're all back now. So send the young goaltender back to the American Hockey League where he belongs.
No, I know. No, they've announced Carter Hart will be up for the rest of the year. So if you missed that,
right. So think about this. So you have 4 goalies to play once every 4 or 5 days. So everybody gets 2 games before the end of the year.
It's a pitching rotation, Russ. That's what they're doing. They're going with a 5-man rotation.
Right.
All right. Jonas Felix Eck, is Trevor Reamsdyk available? 1 year left at $2.1 million. I think he'd be a great fit for the Leafs. Lots of speculation about Carolina moving a D-man.
He's not a great defenseman. Let's be real about him. His value was bloated because he could skate and he could handle the puck a bit. He's not the kind of guy the Leafs need, honestly.
Trevor Reamsdyk is a bottom-pairing right-hand shot defenseman. And the defenseman, if you're talking about Carolina, that the Leafs need is either Pesci or Hamilton.
All right. Yes, but I'm gonna let me take a little bit of the other side of that. I think you guys are over.
Oh, we knew you would take the other side. So.
Not a lot. Trevor Van Riemsdyk has been very good in the playoffs. Okay, so remember, I mean, his history with the Chicago Blackhawks in the first year was he came in and way outperformed what people thought he could in the playoffs. And when you have a defenseman that's proved they can play in the pressure in the playoffs throughout, like he did 4 rounds with the Hawks.
Does anyone believe that Trevor Van Riemsdyk is a legitimate top 4 defenseman? I don't know many people who do.
Definitely bottom pairing, but
right, and that's what they don't. They already have 4 or 5 bottom pairing defensemen. That's a problem. They have 2.
Maybe not Maple Leafs, but Trevor Van Riemsdyk could get traded.
I think we need to clarify this. He's played a lot of playoff minutes.
Right.
The first year he didn't when they won the Stanley Cup for Chicago. The next year he played 23 minutes. The next year 19 minutes. He still only has 1 point in the playoffs.
I'm not casting.
I remember him being.
He was forced into a top 4 role with the Blackhawks the year that Keith and Seabrook were playing over 30 minutes because he was a body that with a beating heartbeat.
He has 1 goal. That's it.
Yeah, it's I'm not, like I said, I'm not casting aspersions on him. If some team is interested in defensive depth, I think Trevor Van Riemsdyk is a good ad, but he's a bottom pairing defenseman.
Only. Correct.
Okay, last question before you guys do your thing. This is Mark Peterson bringing up that Vespis has a good question. So it's a double question here. We'll throw that out there.
Okay.
This is Vespis asks a good question. Mark Hunter, Kelly McCrimmon, are they front runners for the Oilers GM job? I think it's hard to put a front runner spot on that yet at this point. There's no definite, there's no Chuck Fletcher for this thing.
I'll tell you, I interviewed Low Tide recently, Alan Hunter.
Yeah.
Alan Mitchell, who's in that market. And he does think McCrimmon's the leader. And I think we all know why, but I don't think he should be the leader. I think that Michael Fuda should be the leader. And then maybe Hextall second, and then maybe McCrimmon. That's just me, though.
I would be shocked if they name a general manager before the end of the year. I think it'll be.
I think that they want. I don't even think they want another. I think it would be a horrible thing for them to put another that kitchen right now.
Let Keith Gretzky and the leadership group own this deadline. And then after that, if LA agrees to let Fuda go or Vegas allows Kelly McCrimmon to go, they're probably going to let him go, I would say, right after the season before they get into draft evaluation. Because if you're talking about May, they're basically filing their scouting books for the draft. And I think they would say, okay, if it's April 15th, if it's May 15th, they're like, no, you have to wait until after the draft in July.
Right. Ralph Kruger, not a dark horse for the Oilers GM. I love Ralph Kruger, but
he's working for a soccer team, and
he's a partner. But he needs to be, and he actually needs to be coaching in the NHL. Is where I think I want him. If I have Ralph Kruger, I want him as my coach.
All right,
you guys do your thing.
Actually, I think if Kelly McCrimmon does get hired, he should hire Brad as the bill collector. Just saying.
Oh man,
Brad McCrimmon, Mike, come on, you remember him?
He's deceased.
He's deceased.
Right. I forgot he's deceased. Sorry.
No problem. That's fine. Things happen.
That's why I went.
I didn't realize.
Kidding.
Let's talk about the Leafs.
Let's talk about the Leafs.
Right, at least I didn't do the stupidest thing today. That's rare.
All right. So we're going to talk about some of their prospects. Hey, I don't know everybody that's dead.
Yeah.
No, and you're
come on, you're the Grim Reaper.
I know, but I still don't know everybody that's passed away.
But anyhow. But what we're doing here is, we have teams that are buyers. Most of these teams have a good amount of prospects. These teams don't want to trade their top prospects. We talked about Tampa and how they probably don't want to trade Cal Foote or Mitchell Stevens or Anthony Cirelli or their top prospects. Boston with Sherelick or Anders Bjork or Trent Frederick. With the Leafs, it's a little more complex because they don't have as many prospects as those organizations, but they do have a good amount of them. And Russ, 3 guys you think that they probably don't want to move are?
Okay, so I'm going to say one is Dakota Joshua because he is a big centerman. He currently plays for Ohio State. They could sign him right at the end of the season, whenever that is. They can get him into the Marlies right away. Right. I think that's a good move. Then if for some reason they got really far, they want to make him a black ace or something, That would be good.
I've been tracking Dakota Joshua since he was drafted in 2014. He's a big body, good skating, tough centerman. And the thing is that this team, Babcock has talked about the lack of pushback and aggressiveness on this team. He's a tough dude. He's a big kid who likes to play physical hockey. And right now you think they're strong up the middle, and they are with Tavares, Matthews, and Kadri. Fourth line center is Freddie Gauthier, who's basically a 0 on most nights.
Yeah, he's like a better. He would be like an offensive Freddie Gauthier, and maybe he's not as good defensive as Gauthier, but Joshua has a great shot, and he definitely can make some things happen that Gauthier just will never be able to do at the NHL level.
Right, and the Leafs need center depth in the organization. Yeah. So,
but I'm not saying that's good for this year. But I'm saying they should sign him this year.
Yeah, I think they will. But I mean, so that's one.
Now we'll go with Rasmus Sandin next, because I think he had a really good World Juniors. Don't get me wrong. I liked everything I saw out of him. Mm-hmm. I'm going to tell you, I get the feeling they will rush him up into the NHL lineup next year. I don't know if he's ready for that. You can make a face, Mike, but if they lose,
I don't think they will. I don't think they will, because
but this is just my opinion. So let me go first. Go ahead. I happen to think that because of losing Hainsey and possibly having to lose Gardner, and the next guy we're going to talk about will get elevated, that they may find themselves picking up somebody and still needing to slot in one more defenseman, during the summer. And I think Sandin's going to get a chance to make the team, because I think he's a favorite of the GM. That's just my feeling.
I know he's a favorite of the GM. They like him. They love what he's done in the American Hockey League in a limited window. He had an injury, so he's going to be out another couple weeks. I think he was supposed to be 4 to 6 weeks right after the World Junior, so it could be very soon that he's back. But this is the thing. They have their blueprint in terms of defensemen. They followed it with Dermott. They were going to follow it with Liljegren until he got hurt. Was basically a year and a half in the AHL before they even think about putting him in the NHL. A year and a half in the AHL for Sandin is next January. So I don't know whether maybe he'll be given a look at training camp, and if they love him, they'll leave it up to Babcock. But I think they're going to let him play in the AHL through the middle of next year. And if he keeps going on the track that he's going, then maybe he makes it then. But they will not trade him. He is one guy they will not even, if somebody says Rasmus Sandin,
he's not getting traded.
The phone is getting hung up.
Yeah.
There's no way to trade. And then Timothy Liljegren, I got a real good look at him, believe it or not, at the rookie showcase, because I got to see the extra weight and muscle he put on. I've got to see how he matured. I've watched him as a player, don't get me wrong, but this was like I could get like a closer look at the guy. And so I know he's ready to play in the NHL. He definitely could defend. He's not a great defender, but he's going to be like an NHL average defender. Exceptional puck mover, has great vision, great shot.
Great speed, great skating ability.
Yeah, I think he could put up 25 points in his first year. I do. But could he get traded if that's the only way they can get their top 4 guy? Yeah, he could possibly get traded.
He could get traded if the top 4 guy is a guy like a Pietrangelo,
it would have to be a no-brainer.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a guy. He's a right-hand shot defenseman. He's 20 years old. He's got all the tools that Russ just talked about. If they move him, it's going to be for somebody who solves that top 4 defenseman slot for a number of years. And if he isn't, he comes up and he's on an entry-level contract for at least 2 and maybe 3 years. I don't know if it's the slide rule would work for next year, but. I mean, it's under $1 million plus bonuses for a guy who probably would be a top 4 right. Well, I don't know if right from the beginning, but very quickly afterward. So I don't think they're moving Liljegren unless they get a Pietrangelo or a top 2 defenseman. The other name I want to mention, and I'll just mention quickly, they may be willing to trade him, but I think it would be a mistake, is Jeremy Bracco. Jeremy Bracco in the American Hockey League is 1 point behind the leader in terms of assists in the league. He's in the top 10 in offense. He's scoring a point per game. He's 21 years old. He is an immensely skilled winger, a playmaking winger. And just think, if he gets up there and plays with either Kadri, Matthews, or Tavares, all he does is set them up for goals. I would not be looking to trade Jeremy Bracco. If you have to, I understand, but I wouldn't. I would rather them exercise options of trading somebody off the NHL roster and making room for Bracco than trading Bracco before he gets a chance to show what he really has in the NHL.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, they've been intentionally slow cooking him, and I think his time has come. I think even if you brought him up as a playoff guy, he could help. But I don't think they'll do that. But I do think if they did that, he would help. I honestly think that's the level he's at right now. He's won at every level. He has won like a gold medal. He's won a Memorial Cup. He's won a Calder Cup. There are some guys that are just around, like remember Robert Ory used to just win everywhere he went. Some guys just had that where they just are part of winners. Plus he and Austin Matthews play very well together too.
Yep.
That's not a small thing. I mean, that's a really good. Excellent. All right, guys, that's all the time we have for today.
And again, sorry about Brad McCrimmon. I didn't realize.
Oh yeah, no. That's no worries.
Bad joke.
That happens. It'd be funny if it was live. Anyway, remember, if you want to support us, you go to patreon.com/hockey and help us out there. Like I said before, we hope you enjoyed the show half as much as we enjoyed doing it, because that means we enjoyed the show twice as much as you enjoyed watching it. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We'll talk to you soon.